everyone, and thank you for listening to Brain Fruits, the podcast on women changemakers. I'm your host, Hannah Becker, and today I have the great pleasure to introduce you to Petra. Petra is a friend of mine, and she is a very impressive female tech figure. She started out as an architect, she went tech, and then she got now into VC. That's quite a change in careers. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show today, Petra. I would like to start out and ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your career trajectory to this date.
Hello, everyone, and thanks, Anna, for having me. I wanted to be an architect since I was 14, or my plan B was to be a nuclear engineer. But architecture happened to be that choice. So I was happy to get into architecture. And, you know, as you're a kid, like you always have expectations and you were being told fairy tales and things like this. And then you start to study something and then you figure that sometimes reality change, right? And so I was just ended up kind of, not kind of matching what my expectations and the reality was. And then I was, I went to study abroad during my master's. I went to Finland and then I was in Shanghai. And I actually ended up postponing my studies of Masters of Architecture for a year because I just met exciting tech community out there, a lot of entrepreneurs and inspiring figures. And I was like, damn, maybe this is something I should do. And then just kind of VC got into my path. And I was like, okay, well,
what was it really that leveraged this change in careers?
Growing up in an European country and obviously generation of our parents and our generation is vastly different. And I think sometimes we're being said that, well, you do university and then you kind of climb the ladder. So you finish university, you get your first job, and then you just kind of climb that vertical. And there's a certain pressure, like society pressure basically, that is put on you, and then a lot of expectations on what is kind of your future looking like. And I think I've actually really realized that when I was in Shanghai, I don't need to live to expectations of others, you know. And I met also there's like designers tend to be doing like a furniture makers, cabinet makers, or entrepreneurs, you know, switching different things. And I think that inspired me a lot. Yeah.
I feel this like open mindset of yours, and especially the inspiration then coming from the outside, and that you are able to match that and just took the courage to change your career and say like, oh, even going from architecture into technology is actually not that far off. Like connecting these dots from different domains is, I think, what a lot of people that say, oh, why are you changing jobs like even maybe so much? Why is it that you are not able to like, you know, stick to one linear line in life? And I think it is nice to see what you're kind of touching upon here as well, is like the more experience you get, the more you realize that there is no such thing as a linear line. Life is very much about connecting different dots and being able to put them together and shape something with these dots in a given moment when you get the opportunity. And this is where this like open mindset of yours comes into play and probably has helped you quite tremendously.
We should embrace this also in the education, that there is not a vertical, but really rather being open to learn from the wet. As you see, there's so many traditional jobs being disrupted by tech, or like the world is really changing so fast, and I think we should be like adaptable and flexible to it as well.
How can women like you that come with a tech background and maybe have done something completely different before, how can women in venture capital drive humanity forward?
I think there's an influx of female entrepreneurs that are also looking at topics that let's say, guys, it would not be their first choice. There's a startup in fertility tech, which is so cool. And
it is always a little bit of a two-sided sword, I have the impression. To put some numbers on that, like in the United States at the moment, women make up approximately like 11% of investing partners at VC firms. So that's not tremendously high. I really believe that advancing gender equality in venture capital especially is not only like the right thing to do, but it's a smart thing to do, because we can see that there is an opportunity in the sense of increasing prosperity of the whole industry, right? We can see that VC firms with 10% more female investing partners, they hire more successful investments in the portfolio of their company, and they have higher fund returns, and they make 9.7% more profitable exits. So there's a lot of research going on that shows we need more women also in VC.
I have like far from traditional VC background that you could even imagine. I was very transparent. I said I'm very open to actually. I want to see how is it to work in VC. It could be really quite hard to break in, but I was very vulnerable. I said, look, I don't have previous finance background, but I know I can learn fast. But I was very vulnerable and transparent. I was like, I'm happy to learn it. And there's like this reskilling, upskilling. I think that's a major play that we should be really open to.
I like this part that you're saying. This upskilling is so important, and there's so much opportunity out there, right? Like, there's like this traditional market always says like, oh, you finish school and then you start working. And it's like, and then life is like over or what? Like, this is, everyone was working so hard to university to just land a good job, but this is not where learning stops. I think this is really where learning starts. Getting as much experience early on seems to be quite a high predictor of success, in the sense of finding what you like and being able to take these different points and put them together in whatever firm or whatever industry you find yourself in.
And this is something really amazing about this time, because like you can think of what you want to do or who you want to be, and then you can kind of really Google it.
Like, you create your own jobs nowadays. Like, I think this is really where employees are also disrupting the industry a little bit. Like, you're focusing on baby unicorns, which sounds kind of cute, I must say. Like, I have a lot of rainbows now in my head, and I see lots of happy unicorns jumping around. How is 3VC helping baby unicorns to grow up?
That's a good question. So with baby unicorns, we basically mean is, or I actually like that I learned it from the course that I'm taking. We had this like really nice case study, and I just kind of took it for myself, because I really I think we need to bring a lot of some cuteness to the industry, as this could be kind of like boxes and numbers, and it's quite strict. So I'm just trying to, I'm trying to bring a story, my personal story into that. And it's basically you're really trying to find something unique out there that there's the vector of the growth that can really grow exponentially, that there is a unlocked value, and then how you can really kind of like identify it early on, that this is when you spot it early on, it's still like a little baby unicorn that it'll matured over time, and then it's the right bet, obviously. And then how we so the question was how we help to grow this baby unicorns on the way. So obviously one thing is the investment, but I think there is a lot of capital already. So I think what specifically at 3VC, what I do really enjoy is we do a few investments a year. It's usually 3 to 4 during Series A, which is when like you already have a product that has some traction, and then we see that people love it. I think for me, coming from the product, from the tech and architecture, is like when you design for people and then you see that people love it. That's a really nice sign that kind of resonates with us. And then obviously it's a good market. It's an industry that there's a huge potential how we could really drive humanity forward. If we bet into this one, it's something we were unlocking potential value. This is really important. And as we do this quite scarce investments a year, it allows us to be really hands-on with the founders. And I think that's really tremendous value that we could deliver as we're helping with as it grows over time with really like hiring. Not beside the capital, I think that's the one thing that is VC about, but really as you're a founder and you need to really grow big. So there's like hiring challenge, then there is a strategy challenge, and so like when you're kind of looking at the industry, you have a lot of insights being able to provide that. We usually co-invest with either US or UK funds, which in the Series A stage, it allows funders to go from Europe to the US or to the bigger market. And when we kind of combine those two networks, that's really powerful accelerator, I would say, where we're kind of considered to be the local sparing partner with, as with all the European operations. And then there's the big VC name.
The amount of venture capital that goes to female entrepreneurs is still lower in 2021 than it has been for the last 5 years. And that is quite a surprise to me. Like, hearing your story and hearing a lot of my friends' stories, and it always sounds quite like it's a bright future, I must say, in venture capitalism or also in just general the finance industry. But then you see these numbers, these percentages, and you just scratch your head and think, how's that possible? How is it possible that, especially now in the COVID-19 pandemic with all these courses going on, and you can see so many women entrepreneurs online really stepping up and showing what they're doing. How is it possible that the amount of capital going to these women entrepreneurs is now lower than what we've seen in the past 5 years? What do you think? Why is that?
Maybe more mothers just had to actually stay at home as there was no support, things like this. Maybe that changed, dealing with mental health or with COVID. I had to kind of, I suffered from that a bit, even though I'm not a mother, but COVID made some impact on me. Unfortunately quite negative, but there's also good learnings.
Not tapping too much into that, as you say, like the COVID-19 pandemic also had a pretty spin around on mental health crisis. What's your experience with that? Like what do you see now, also maybe the lenses being in venture capital? What has made a difference for you when you say that you had some challenges maybe during that year? And how did you experience this entire crazy year of the pandemic?
Before I actually joined the VC, I was working in a company, and we basically were working online for 1.5 years, which initially I was like, that's exciting, remote work from home. But as I lived alone, I never felt lonely or anything like that. But just when you really, sometimes you go to work to meet colleagues, you're distracted, and that's you kind of stop worrying about some things. You have your rituals in the morning when you just kind of commute, and even though it's time that ultimately we have only 24 hours a day. Suddenly you have all this time, but at the same point you don't make much more out of the time when you're at home. That was at least my case. I was just working all the time, but I didn't have the energy that I had when sometimes I could go to the office or have this flexibility. So what I've just learned, I need to have flexibility. If that was just the choice that I had, and I like to hang out with colleagues, but I have to also work on my own. I didn't have those options, and I just felt overworked. Basically, just get up in the morning. You have 5 steps to your work desk. You finish like super late, and then you're just okay. Well, and it's challenging. But I think what actually COVID-19 taught us all is that for everyone it's so different.
And that's very sad. But on the other hand, there's a lot of good stuff happening as well. I have the impression that people are much more mindful with one another when it comes to, talking about vulnerabilities and talking about how you really feel, because we can't just leave our emotions at home. For me, working much more with my energy and adapting that to my productivity levels really made a big shift. But we're coming slowly to the end of our podcast recording today. I have a last question for you, Petra. Having heard about your successful career change and your very refreshing and rejuvenating approach to venture capital, what are some of the recommendations, the brain foods that you would like to share with our community of listeners, maybe when it comes to, let's say, I want to change my career and start working in impact finance or venture capital or anything finance related, because that's really the main focus of this podcast. Let's get more women into finance, because that's where the change and the money lies.
I think it's ultimately related to what do you enjoy and what is your passion, and beside what you do right now, I think there also needs to be somewhat related kind of a trial that you can do on your own and to really see if this is something where you want to change. So I think kind of allocating some time into tapping into resources, whether that's like books or whatever, like what's the other industry, and then getting a mentor. I'm so thankful to really also I met really inspirational people, and I'm always trying to learn from as they were more, let's say, progressed, and just kind of really listen to them. I think I listen to others sometimes. It's not, you can make it the hard you can take the hard path, but sometimes it's also good to listen to others who've already done it. So some mentors is one good thing, and there's a lot of books. I love to read a lot of business books because there's always there could be a lot of fluff, but also some learnings. And I think it's great to have the business books right next to psychology or like soft skills related books. That's always kind of to check with yourself. Where's the ego, and then where's the kind of really your purpose and your values, and kind of check with that. So that's, and then ultimately I think it's really, what is really great is you have environment. Well, that's I think that's the most important, is actually to have environment, whether that's friends or people you really hang out with, that they're open, they're inspirational, and they would encourage you actually, and that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful.
I think
because
that is so nice that you say that, because that's not, if you like look around you and really kind of assesses this, like, and this is, it sounds maybe a bit harsh, but I think it's very true. Are these really people that want my best? And is it really people that help me to become a better person? And if you can say yes to at least, like, I think 70 to 80% of those people surrounding you, then you're already in a very good spot. And I like this idea, what you're saying about mentorship. I think it's so important. We're seeing a huge rise in mentorship, and well, with Frankfurt's, we're going there as well, so slowly. So that's really, really, really exciting. Thank you so much, Petra, for being on this podcast. How can people find you and reach out to you?
Well, first off, thanks for inviting me here. I feel very privileged to, since I've listened to the other guests, so I feel very privileged to be here. Well, I'm on Twitter, and I'm on LinkedIn as well. You can kind of share it with the description. I'm very open to that. Yeah.
Nice.
And if anyone is further interested, I'm happy to jump on a call if that would be helpful for anyone. If there's maybe some architects who want to go into VC, or just in general how to make changes, I'm happy to.
We'll definitely pass that on. Thank you so much for being part of this. It's been a great pleasure. And as always, you can listen to Brainfoots on all major streaming platforms, Spotify, YouTube, and Buzzsprout. Thanks, and we'll hear from another inspiring guest in the next time.